Thank you so much for coming online. So just a request, before we start our prayers, quick request to all the devotees. If possible, please switch on your videos. Whoever can switch on their videos, please, you can try to switch on their videos because I'll get some encouragement while speaking. Okay. Okay, so we'll begin with prayers. So today in Bhagavatam verse, I was told to start with the third chapter of Bhagavatam, the first canto. So we have been discussing two chapters, and now the third chapter we are going to enter. So many of you are attending Bhagavatam regularly, so we'll revise quickly from the first two chapters and start the third chapter today onwards. Okay. So we'll begin with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. A very warm welcome to all the devotees who have come for this Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. So till this point, we have been discussing the first two chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto, which marks the beginning and foundational chapters for the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Normally, it is seen that people who study Bhagavatam, for them the most difficult phase that they find, or most difficult phase that they find difficult to cross through, is the first three chapters. If somebody successfully reads first three chapters and completes first three chapters of Bhagavatam, it is said that he smoothly sails through other chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because first three chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam has a lot of philosophy in it. It is heavily loaded with philosophy. And generally when it comes to philosophy, especially if it is something new, there is a reluctance to study that, right? So Srimad Bhagavatam first three chapters are foundational chapters based on which the entire Srimad Bhagavatam discussion moves on, right? So whoever had, many of you might have attended the first two chapters. So before we begin our discussion, in essence, if at all you remember something, just in one line, or you can unmute and speak something, can you just revise from the first two chapters? What was the most striking point in the first two chapters that you felt while studying these two chapters or while listening to these two chapters? Any striking point that somebody in the chat box you can share, or maybe you can unmute and speak, whatever. Okay, Purushavasaras. Okay. Okay, Purushavasaras is one aspect which was briefly discussed. Purushavasaras are actually discussed elaborately in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shruti Mataji, yes, Mataji.
Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan, that is something which I really relished in the first chapters.
Yeah, Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. Okay, Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan and Prayojan Gyan. These three aspects were discussed. Sambandha means to know what is my relationship with the Supreme Lord. Abhideya means to act according to that relationship. Prayojan is the ultimate goal, is Krishna Prema that you can attain, right? Yeah, some points mentioned in the chat. Krishna enters in material world just to take care of Jiva in the form of Paramatma. Okay. Yeah. Paramatma is one of the forms that Krishna takes. There are many other forms also that he takes.
Inquiry from the sages also, Prabhuji. The questions raised by the sages.
Yeah, the questions that the sages had asked. Okay. Yeah. So the first chapter, how it began, was mainly with the 6 questions that the sages had asked in Naimisharanya to Suta Goswami. And Shaunakadi Rishi had asked this question. And after this question were asked, Suta Goswami begins to answer these questions. Right? And if you look at these questions carefully, these questions mainly were asked by Shaunakadi Rishis with only one intention. The intention that Shaunakadi Rishis were having was, by the answers that will come out from the mouth of Suta Goswami, will actually do the supreme welfare for entire humanity. So keeping in mind the welfare of entire humanity, these questions were asked. And this is greatness of the sages. Even while asking questions, they're not asking for themselves. They're asking so that the answer to these questions will actually benefit the entire humanity, right? Yeah. Rani Mataji is telling, one who develops a desire to hear about the Lord can cleanse his heart of material contamination and develop love for the Lord. Yes. Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hriday Antasto hi apatrani Vidhunoti Surhitstam. Right. Right. So these wonderful points were discussed. So Suta Goswami begins to answer the 6 questions which sages had actually asked in the first chapter. He begins to answer in the second chapter. So in the second chapter, mainly the first 2 questions were answered. What were the first 2 questions? What is the essence of all scriptures and what is the supreme welfare for the entire humanity? And what is the answer? The answer is bhakti. Answer is devotional service. So in the second chapter, mainly devotional service was discussed, right? Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti rathokshaje ahai tuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So the stages of bhakti was discussed, right? Beginning from Adhav Shraddha to Krishna Prema. And then these stages of bhakti, how one attains by undivided devotional service to Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And then it was also mentioned by Suta Goswami that how devotees of Supreme Lord do Ananya Bhakti to Krishna and nobody else. And then later, some brief mention of the Purusha avatars was also there in the second chapter, right? And also towards the end of second chapter, the third question was also briefly answered. That is, why does Krishna come in this material world? To reclaim the souls and basically to reinstate them back to the mode of goodness and reclaim the conditioned souls. So these aspects were discussed in the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So now we are moving on to the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So this third chapter mainly deals with the fourth question that Shaunaka the Rishi had asked about the Leela avatars of the Lord, right? But before entering into the Leela avatars of the Lord, which the entire third chapter mainly elaborates, there is also mention of the Purusha avatars. Why? There is a reason which will be explained in today's verse that we'll be discussing. So I'll just open the verse for reference. So before discussing about the Leela avatars, the Purusha avatars are briefly discussed. Why? Because mainly all these Leela avatars have come from Purusha avatars. So about Purusha avatars, we will briefly discuss today. So beginning with the first canto, third chapter, first verse, we'll discuss the first verse today, which mainly elaborates or mainly discuss about the first Purusha avatara, that is Karano Dakashayi Vishnu, right? This class may appear little technical, but I'll try to elaborate through Prabhupada's purport. So this is a very interesting class, especially the first three verses speak about the Purusha avatars, and then the Leela avatars, the avatars which Krishna takes to perform different Leelas and for different purposes. And ultimately how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead that is established in this particular chapter, which is actually called as Paribhasha Sutra for the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. That also comes in this chapter itself, right? So let's move on to today's verse. Okay, somebody has to give me permission for sharing the screen. Screen sharing permission. Who's the host? Okay. So this is how the third chapter, first verse begins. So before we move on to today's verse, this verse, I personally want each and every one of you to pay attention for next few minutes, because in this verse, we are going to discuss one aspect of the three Purusha avatars that Krishna takes. So we all know, if at all you were attending the other classes, you know that the three Purusha avatars, first one is Karuna Dakshayi Vishnu, then Garbho Dakshayi Vishnu, then Kshiro Dakshayi Vishnu. Each Purusha avatara have their own role to play, right? And this particular verse begins with the first Purusha avatara. So before we move on to this particular verse, you might have many times heard, or maybe you might have seen in many serials also, in which they show that Vishnu or Narayan is the source of all incarnations, right? And from Vishnu, all the incarnations come. So yes, the first Purusha avatara is like the source of entire material creation, which is the Mahavishnu or Karano Dakashayi Vishnu, and about whom we will be discussing today. So you all can repeat after me this particular verse. Suta Uvacha Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadivihi Sambhutam Shodashakalam Adau Loka Shishikshaya. So Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam. So Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan. So here Suta Goswami is actually speaking about Lord Shri Krishna or Bhagavan. What is he doing? Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam. He has accepted Purusha incarnation. He has accepted the form of Purusha. Jagrihe means in the beginning of creation, Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of Purusha incarnation, which is the Karanodakshai Vishnu. And Karanodakshai Vishnu is the Mahavishnu first incarnation or first expansion of Supreme Lord Krishna for the purpose of creating this material world, right? So Mahavishnu is actually lying in the causal ocean, and from the pores of his body, millions, not even millions, unlimited universes are coming from the pores of his body, right? The Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of Purusha incarnation, manifested all the ingredients for material creation. So if you look at this particular verse, it says, Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadibihi, right? So the ingredients of required for creation of this material world is in the form of Mahat Tattva initially, right? Which Sambhutam Shoda Shakalam, right? Which has 16 primary elements for creation, right? Within this Mahat Tattva. Ado Loka Shishikshaya. And using these elements, he created this material world. That's what this particular verse is speaking about, right? Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadibihi Sambhutam Shodashakalam Ado Loka Shishikshaya. So many times, I don't know how many of you have come across this. Many times these elements for material creation, different numbers are quoted different times. Sometimes some people say 7 elements. Sometimes some people say 24 elements. Sometimes some say 16 elements, and so on and so forth. Sometimes some say 11 elements. But here it is saying 16 elements. So which one is true? Everyone is true. All the elements which are quoted, they are true only. Only the way that they are calculated, that is different, right? So, like for example, if I have some 1,000 people in a room, then I can use different way to categorize them. One may categorize, okay, only we'll categorize according to if somebody is computer engineer or somebody is mechanical engineer, somebody is civil engineer. Such a categorization can be made. Or you can also categorize them according to their states. So there can be different categorization for the same group of people. So the same conglomeration of elements, sometimes it's categorized differently, right? So the 16 elements which are spoken here, it has different categorization, right? So here the 16 elements which is spoken speaks about either 10 senses, 1 mind, and 5 basic elements for the material creation. Just 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, and 1 mind, and earth, water, fire, air, ether, 5 elements. So that's how it makes 16 elements, right? So Sambhutam Shoda Shakalam Ado Loka Shishikshaya, right? Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam. So this is what is this verse all about. It speaks about Karanodakshai Vishnu. But this verse has a very, very deep meaning, which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elaborates, which we'll try to discuss for next 10 minutes, next 5 to 6 minutes, that why this particular verse is mentioned before explaining all the incarnations that Krishna takes within this chapter, right? So we'll read through the purport and discuss something on this meaning from the Acharya's commentary. Right. So here Prabhupada is writing, Bhagavad Gita states that the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, maintains these material universes by extending his plenary expansions. So this Purusha form is confirmation of the same principle. The original personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, is full with all opulences, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. A part of his opulence is manifested as impersonal Brahman, and part of his opulences is manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of same Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. There are three Purusha features and features in material creation, and this form, who is known as Karanodakshay Vishnu, is first of the three. The other are known as Garbhodakshay Vishnu and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. The innumerable universes are generated from skin holes of Karanodakshay Vishnu. In each one of the universes, the Lord enters as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Right? So, we'll move ahead, a little ahead. Here Prabhupada explains, the Lord is the only enjoyer and others are enjoyed. The living beings are predominated enjoyers, but the eternally conditioned souls forgets this constitutional position, have strong aspirations to enjoy. The chance to enjoy matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side they are given chance to understand their real constitutional position. So here is where the most important point is coming. For next 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, you all can pay attention. Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading the purport. I think I did not share the screen. Okay, sorry. So here Prabhupada is telling a very important point. Why this entire creation is being created? One may ask that Lord is in spiritual world with his devotees and he's enjoying eternally in the spiritual world along with his devotees. Now we were also, all the jivas originally belong to the spiritual world only. And in spiritual world, what were we jivas doing? We were actually very, very happy serving the Supreme Lord, right? Lord created his parts and parcel originally in the spiritual world. And the way Lord created all of us were that one who is serving the Supreme Lord enjoys more than the Supreme Lord also, right? So here Prabhupada in this purport, he is mentioning the Lord is the only enjoyer and others are enjoyed, right? Everyone else, they are meant to serve the Supreme Lord, right? Living beings are predominated enjoyers. They are predominated by the Supreme Lord and they enjoy by serving the Supreme Lord more than the Supreme Lord, right? But the eternally conditioned soul, forgetful of his constitutional position, have strong aspirations to enjoy. But what happened is these conditioned souls, or these souls who were actually very happy serving the Supreme Lord, they developed some desire that why should he, the Supreme Lord, be the only person who's enjoying here? I also want to experience some enjoyment wherein people around me, or there should be some around me who should serve me rather than me serving the Supreme Lord, right? So what does the Lord do when such a desire comes? The chance to enjoy matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side, they are given a chance to understand their real constitutional position. This is a very important line. See, Krishna, when we desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, Krishna did not reject these souls permanently. What did Krishna do? Krishna created a material world which in which the jiva can experience controllership, which he actually is desiring. See, jiva wanted to have control over everything. So Krishna made a material world wherein he can experience that controllership also. See, you can imagine how merciful is Krishna. Even though we are rebelling against Krishna, he is fulfilling our desire by giving us a material world where we can exercise our controllership, right? But while exercising this controllership, he will get frustrated and finally understand his real constitutional position. So Krishna is so clever, or Krishna is such a wonderful God, that he's giving every jiva a chance to enjoy separately from him, because he has himself desired that. But then also side by side, he's giving chance to understand his real constitutional position. That's what Prabhupada is writing here. How does he give chance to every soul to understand their real constitutional position? He will ensure that time to time he himself will take incarnation in the material world and give opportunity for everyone within this material world to experience that Supreme Lord who is in spiritual world. He will send his devotees, he will send acharyas, he will send scriptures, so many different ways. He will ensure that he will give chance to every jiva who's actually assuming, who's actually in the illusion that he's enjoying. But then different ways, different techniques Krishna is devising so that he can make this forgetful jiva somehow understand his real constitutional position. Right? See, somebody, so Krishna is Supreme Lord, so he's supremely tolerant also. You know? He's so tolerant that sometimes somebody very close to us, if they become angry with us, then what do? We wait for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 day, few days, right? But Krishna is ready to wait for lifetimes. See, he makes this material world, and after making this material world, he is patiently waiting. When will that time come? When this jiva, who is actually assuming that he actually is enjoying, when will he turn back to me and say that, no, enough of this, Krishna, now I just want to come back to you. He's patiently waiting, right? See, here Prabhupada is telling those fortunate living entities who can catch the truth and surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudev after many births in the material world, join the eternally liberated souls and thus are allowed to enter the kingdom of God. After this, such fortunate living entities need not come again within the occasional material creation, right? So now we have to understand the intention that Krishna has behind this material creation. See, this whole verse which explains, it's very wonderfully explained. But what we need to understand, especially in this third chapter or even in the second canto, in Bhagavatam, you will see that there are so many different reasons and the philosophical explanation given of why and how this material world is created. But it is very important to understand the intention that Krishna has behind the creation, behind this creation of material world. So if we understand the intention, we will understand the greatness of Supreme Lord. We will understand how merciful is he, right? So the intention Krishna has behind creation of this material world, this intention is very clear, that he wants to reclaim all the conditioned souls who are there in this material world back to the spiritual world. That's the only intention Krishna has. There is no other intention. He is devising such complicated material world, so much of jhamela, right? Such complicated material world, 16 elements, whatnot. In second canto, it's so confusing. Even to read it is confusing. One who has created this, we can understand how great the creator can be. Now, all the conglomeration of 16 elements and taking each element, combining them, different demigods who are in charge of different departments within this material world. All this jhamela for just one reason. Somehow or the other, Krishna wants to reclaim the conditioned souls and give them opportunity to somehow remember their original constitutional position and come back to him and be eternally happy. And Krishna is ready to go through such degree of trouble. He could have just left the conditioned souls forever and forgotten. But then he is going through all this trouble so that the conditioned soul will come back to him and be eternally happy. Right? So this is what we have to understand. So this particular verse clearly explains the intention behind the creation of material world. Adav Loka Shikshaya. Why is he expanding as Purusha avatars? Right? Why is he creating Mahatattva, so many elements? It's highly complicated, just with the hope that one day this forgetful Jiva will turn back to me and say, Krishna, now this is enough. I have had enough of controllership. Now I'm fed up of this. Now let me come and serve you eternally. Just for that one gesture of living entity, Krishna is ready to go through the entire trouble that he's undergoing, right? See, here Prabhupada is telling, but those who cannot catch the constitutional truth are again merged into Mahatattva at the time of annihilation of material creation. When the creation is again set up, this Mahatattva is again let loose. This Mahatattva contains ingredients of material manifestation, including the conditioned souls. So here, if you read the scripture, scripture says Bhutva Bhutva Praliyati. That means this material creation is created, destroyed, again created, again destroyed. So Krishna actually manifests this material world and gives opportunity to every living entity to practice bhakti and come back. And after the Chatur Yugas, Krishna becomes angry in his form as Ananta Shesha. So he emanates fire. And he emanates fire and everything is destroyed. And the Jivas again come back to this Mahatattva and is merged into the body of Mahavishnu. But then Krishna again thinks, Mahavishnu again thinks, okay, I gave them one opportunity, they wasted it. But let me give one more opportunity, right? Again, the entire material creation is made. Again, the creation takes place. Again, Krishna incarnates in different times to the material world. Again, he sends his devotees. Again, the creation takes place. And those who take the opportunity, they go back to the spiritual world. And again, there is destruction. Again, Krishna becomes compassionate. Again, the material world is created. So the entire shloka that we discussed today, we have to understand the intention behind why Krishna is doing this. The intention is that Krishna is supremely compassionate, and out of his compassion, he wants to give opportunity to every living entity to come back to him so that they will be eternally happy. And Krishna is supremely tolerant, and he's just waiting for that day, that moment when Jiva will agree to surrender to Krishna, agree to serve him for his own benefit, right? So this is what we can understand from this chapter, especially this particular verse. And now this chapter, when you will read ahead, Krishna speaks, so Suta Goswami speaks about the other two Purusha avatars, and also speaks about all the Leela avatars, and also how Krishna is the source of all the incarnations. Everything is explained, right? But we have to understand Krishna's heart also. And Krishna's heart is longing that Jiva will one day turn to him and surrender to him. And when we understand the greatness of our Supreme Lord, we can do nothing but just surrender to him, seeing his love and compassion towards the living entities, conditioned living entities like all of us. Right. So that's all for today's discussion. If there are any questions or any comments, I'm available for a few minutes. Correct. Bhagavad Gita 24 elements are mentioned. Correct. So as I said, this is different categorization at different times that we do. So don't worry about it. That is different category. I think that is karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, and then the material elements, and man, buddhi, ahankar, and many such things. I'll have to go through it because I'm not technically so sound. The 24 elements are mentioned there also. So that's correct. That's not wrong. Please elaborate dharma in simple example. Little confusing. Dharma actually means constitutional position. Prabhupada used to explain that there is dharma of every element. Like what is the constitutional position of water? Water's constitutional position is liquidity. right? It's always liquid. Yes, in certain temperature, you can force water to become solid and it becomes ice. But as soon as you leave it in normal room temperature, it will again become liquidy. Similarly, the dharma for every living entity is to serve Krishna. On certain conditions, Jiva may act as if he is enjoying separate from Krishna. But the normal, regular state for every living entity is to serve Krishna. Like the dharma of sugar is to be sweet, right? If sugar is not sweet, then it is not sugar, it is something else. So that is what is dharma, the original constitutional position. That is dharma. Okay, is that okay? Okay. How can we make this philosophy relevant to our life in this world today? Yes, it is very much relevant. See, we are all having different occupational duties. Some are students, some are parents, some are brothers, sister. We have some designation, we have responsibilities that come along with that designation in this material world. But while we are fulfilling these responsibilities, we should never forget the reason for which I've come here, right? We have a temporary designation within this material world for some time that we are here. But we have to understand that before I came here and after I go back from this material world, I have a permanent position in the spiritual world. And when we read Bhagavatam philosophy, what happens is when we understand where do I belong to, where is my original home, then I will do the duties that I have been assigned in this material world. But I will never lose focus on my eternal position, never lose focus on my duties, which is to duty towards that Supreme Lord, who's my eternal Father. Duty towards and the activities that I should be doing to reinstate my eternal position. That I'll never forget. So that is how it is relevant. This philosophy is relevant for every devotee, every jiva in this material world, that he should never forget from where has he come from, right? And always keep his focus that I have to work today to actually go back to my Supreme Lord, who's in the spiritual world, which is my original home, right? Thank you, Prabhu. Pandava lost in gamble. Is it adharma they did? No, not really, because they did not do adharma. Why? There is a reason. Because Kshatriyas are actually allowed to gamble under certain conditions. Because Kshatriyas, if you challenge them, they cannot refuse that challenge. So Pandavas were challenged. That is one thing. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was Dharmaraj, and he considered Dhritarashtra as his own father. So when Dhritarashtra ordered him to do gambling, and when this challenge was given to him, or an instruction came from Dhritarashtra and Kauravas challenged them, they had to abide to the instruction, considering Dhritarashtra is as good as his father. Even though Dhritarashtra was little devious, always tried to kill Pandavas, but Pandavas, being headed by Dharmaraj Yudhishthir, always abided by the instructions of Dhritarashtra. So from their side, it was not adharma, right? It was not adharma. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I think Rani Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
1 second, Mataji. I'll just increase the volume. Yes, Mataji. Yeah.
Prabhuji, so actually Krishna asks Arjuna to declare Name Bhaktya Pranashyati. So my devotee never falls down. So Prabhuji, when we are serving initially in the spiritual world, are we not Krishna's devotees? Prabhuji, why did we fall down in the first place? Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So why did we fall down in the first place? This question is, of course, this has many ways to answer. But the answer is very simple, Mataji. Because when Krishna created the living entities, he gave free will to every living entity. Yeah, I think we have had discussion on this question before also. And the free will that Krishna gave to living entity, why did Krishna give free will? Because Krishna wanted every living entity or every jiva to voluntarily love him, right? So he
Yes,
gave them free
Prabhuji,
will.
sorry.
Why?
Just in this context, I just wanted the understanding, Prabhuji, because he says my devotee never falls down. So,
Yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
come to that point.
yeah, Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhuji.
Because Krishna has given him this free will. So every moment the jiva has a choice to choose between serving Krishna or choose between or not to serve Krishna. This choice every living entity has every moment, even in spiritual world. He has this choice. And Krishna never ever takes back or takes this independence away from the living entity, because he always wants living entity to voluntarily love him, not out of force, right? So even in spiritual world, this freedom every living entity has, whether this moment I should serve Krishna or I choose not to serve Krishna. So the moment living entity develops this desire, oh, what if I don't serve Krishna and everybody around me starts serving me? Immediately, Krishna is very alert to the desires of his devotee. So he says, okay, if that is your desire, you can try it out and see what is your experience in this. And Krishna facilitates that desire by creating a material world wherein he can exercise this desire. And after exercising this desire, at a certain point, he waits patiently till the time Jiva says, no, I don't think so. I can enjoy here, because there is no enjoyment actually. So it's only suffering. So I wish to serve you, Krishna. And he waits for that moment, right? I don't know if it is clear, Mataji.
Prabhuji, I understood whatever you're conveying, Prabhuji, that I understand. So in that context where, Krishna tells Arjuna to say that my devotee never falls down. But
Right. Okay.
were we not devotees of Krishna in the spiritual world before we fell down, Hare Krishna? And because we're also saying that the next time we go back, we will not fall down. So that's only thing.
Yeah. See, next. Okay. So Krishna says to Arjuna that Kaunteya pratijanehi name bhaktya pranashyati. So what is Krishna telling? Arjuna, you declare. Because if you declare, I take it very seriously that my devotee never falls down. What does it mean? This meaning is very, very simple, Mataji. Why Krishna says this confidently? Because Krishna ensures that the devotee doesn't fall down. And apparently, even if the devotee falls down, Krishna gives them opportunity, unlimited opportunity to reinstate his position back. And Krishna is always besides his devotee to protect him, caring for him, right? And apparently, it may appear that a devotee is falling down, but no, it's not that the devotee is falling down. It is actually plan of Krishna to somehow reclaim that devotee back. Like for example, Bharat Maharaj, apparently it appeared that he fell down and became a deer. But did he actually fall down? Prabhupada says no, he did not fall down. Even in the body of the deer, Krishna gave him remembrance of his past life. He was hearing constantly Krishna Katha, and with that he became more serious in bhakti. And because of his extra serious bhakti as Jada Bharata, in just one lifetime he went back to Godhead. So apparently for us, it may appear that, oh, a devotee is falling down. But Krishna is telling, no, I'm besides that devotee, giving him opportunity, always attentive and always making plans to bring back, reclaim back his devotees. And as you mentioned, when the jiva goes back to spiritual world, he doesn't come back. This is generally mentioned by our acharyas, not because after the jiva goes back to spiritual world, his free will is taken away from him. No. Free will is with the jiva always. Even after going back to a spiritual world, he can choose to come back to material world again. But generally, he will not do so because he has already burnt his hand in the fire. And it is unlikely that he will again jump into the fire to burn his hand again. So that's how it is said that he will never come back to this material world again. That's why yat gatva na nivartante tathama paramamama. Krishna is telling in that aspect, not that he will snatch free will from the jiva, permanently. No, he will never do that. He will always keep the free will with the jiva only. Right? Is that okay, Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Sorry. Yes, Ruth. Yeah.
So my question is that moment a devotee wants to enjoy
Yes, Ruth.
himself, forgetting
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
1 second, Prabhuji. I just wanted to ask Rani Mataji, is she okay? Because before going to the next question, is she there, Rani Mataji? Think she has moved out. Okay, Prabhuji, you can ask.
So my question was that moment a devotee thinks that he wants to forget Krishna and wants to enjoy,
Mhm.
is he a devotee then?
Prabhuji, one thing which we have to understand in spiritual world, a jiva will never desire that he wants to forget Krishna. It's just a small desire to experience the same enjoyment of being served.
So one sec, I'll rephrase my question in that case. So if I say that moment a devotee forgets his constitutional position and wants to enjoy the free will, then does he remain devotee, or
Yes.
he still remain
He's
devotee?
actually a devotee because Krishna is in spiritual world. Everybody is devotee, bro. Only thing he has a slight desire. I wish I could have also enjoyed little bit like Krishna is enjoying. Not that he's completely rebellious and saying that Krishna, you move out of the spiritual world, let me become Golokapati. No. It's not that he has an extensive desire. It's just a slight desire that he develops.
Then Prabhuji, then what you have answered for Rani Mataji, I
Right.
think there's a still doubt, because in that case, using the free will and enjoying, he should
Right.
not fall down, no?
Roji, this free will is awarded by Krishna to Jiva, and Krishna chooses not to take it back.
No, I know that.
It is not falling down. It is Krishna's mercy that he is giving facility for the Jiva to exercise the free will, exercise the desire which has popped up in his heart. You're understanding? We don't call it technically fall down also. See, a small child in the home may say that, okay, I don't want papa, mummy, or I don't want to cook. I don't like to eat what you're cooking. I want to cook whatever I prepare. So parents know that if he is allowed to enter the kitchen, he will burn his hand in the fire. So a toy kit is given to him. Okay, so this kit, you take it and you cook something and you only eat. And sometime the boy or the child will play around with it. So if it is not given to the child will become more adamant. The child will start demanding more. So parents are giving facility to fulfill his desire, and child is also satisfied for some time. But after 2-3 hours, he'll understand that whatever I am cooking, it is not edible only. I cannot eat this. He'll again come back to his parents and eat the normal food, which he has actually prepared by the parents. So what we have to understand that technically it is not fall down. It is Krishna's mercy that he is giving facility to fulfill the desire of the jiva which has popped up in his heart. And actually it is said that the moment he gets this desire, he's made Brahma for one universe. And as Brahma, he gets chance to create entire material universe, secondary creator. And there he gets a lot of service for the Supreme Lord also. And the moment he takes it as service and serves the Supreme Lord by creation, he actually from Brahma stage only, he goes back to spiritual world, there itself. But once after creation, if he thinks that, oh, I have created so much, I am the greatest, then from that Brahma's position, he will fall down and slowly he'll come down. So it is Krishna's mercy that every stage he's allowing the jiva to exercise his free will, and he's facilitating facilitating the desires, right? So it is not direct fall down. It is a gradual fall down, which ultimately jiva chooses at every moment, whether I want to go down or whether I want to go up. Is that okay? I don't know. Okay. Okay. Rahul Prabhu, if we have time.
Yeah, Prabhuji,
Yes, Rudy. Okay.
the shloka that Rani Mataji is talking about, fall down. I think if we look at the previous shlokas, wherein it is said that whoever wants to go to the Indra Loka, so even if they they wish to stay there, they are supposed to leave that and come down again to Mrityu Loka. I think that's what the reference of that shloka is, and not comparing it with the spiritual world. I mean, only thing that
No. But Rani Mataji's question was not like that. Rani Mataji's question was why Jiva in this spiritual world actually fell down, even though Krishna is told that Name Bhaktya Pranashyati, my devotee never falls down.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
According to Bhagavatam, even going to Swargaloka is also as good as fall down only. For Jiva here, we may think that okay, going to Swarga is something very great. But according to Bhagavata, going to Swarga is also actually fall down of Jiva only. Because wherever there is no opportunity to serve Krishna and remember Krishna, that is not worth it, according to Bhagavata. So, but of course, what you are telling is Bhagavad Gita is telling about people who go to Indra Loka thinking that I will enjoy, will ultimately come back to material world after they finish their quota. That is also correct, Prabhu. That is also right. But Mataji's question was in regard to devotees in spiritual world.
The point I was trying to
Prabhuji,
make.
so what I think I'm understanding, Prabhuji, is that Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the material world, and Krishna spoke to Arjuna in the material world. So the Jiva has already fallen down. So now he is saying that the devotees will not fall down. I guess this is the understanding I get. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Nice class, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Rahul Prabhu, is that?
Yeah, Prabhuji, that's what I was trying to bring the point out. Wherein willingly, if there is in Krishna Lok, until unless the Jiva doesn't wish to fall down to material Lok, he won't fall down. But in Indra Loka, I mean, going to the higher planets, even if he wishes to stay there, he will be kicked out once his karma is finished. That's what I think the whole that chapter speaks about in terms of declare Arjuna that my bhakta will not fall down. I think that's what the reference of taking the reference of the previous slokas is. The reference between the.
But that sloka, Rahul Prabhu doesn't say that. That sloka, Krishna clearly says tells Arjuna to tell to everyone that his devotee will never fall down. So that's a different context altogether.
I was going through this chapter. I mean, I'm reading through this chapter, the shloka, which 9th chapter, which we are discussing, which Rani Mataji. So the previous shloka speak about one going to the Indra Loka, wishing to go through the Indra Loka, going through all the penances, and then one who is into Krishna Bhakti, and after that concluding the verses about hey Arjuna, please declare that one who is my bhakta will never fall down. Is that what the connection I could make out through all the slokas in that chapter?
Actually, Prabhuji, sorry, it's going longer, but what Krishna is trying to say when devotee never falls down is apparently after Swargaloka also, if he comes to the material world, there also he is given an opportunity to practice bhakti either in a very rich family or being in a very aristocratic or a devotee family. That's what he says. Right? Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yogo Krishto Vichayate. So in any condition, Krishna is always there besides his devotee to protect him. Apparently, he may be in Swargaloka or he may come to material world. But Krishna never is actually deprives the jiva from his association, right?
Yes, that is the point actually in that sloka. That is the point in the sloka. Krishna assures that his devotee will not fall down through Arjuna.
Correct.
And the previous sloka contest should not be taken.
Correct. He is assuring that with confidence. Why? Because he is always besides his jiva, observing him. Like if you are besides your son or your daughter, always. You have the daughter has full confidence कि कुछ भी हो जाए मेरे मम्मी पापा मुझे बचाएंगे या फिर they are there to protect me, right? So Krishna is giving assurance कि भिऊ नकोस मी तुझ्या पाठीशी आहे. No, that actually Krishna is only fulfilling that desire. That actual, by word, Krishna is able to fulfill it because he's always besides the jiva to protect him in any condition. In material world, jiva cannot decide his position. In spiritual world, unless jiva wishes to enjoy, he will not fall into material world. That is true, but we have to understand it is not that a jiva decides now I don't want Krishna at all. No, that's not what he decides. Just a small desire which he originally has, which gradually gets contaminated by the material contamination within